VocalEye Almost Live Zoom. Crowdsourced description. Vancouver Mural Festival. Hosted by Amy Amantea. With special guests Adrian Sinclair, Jiten Beairsto, and Lindsey Adams.
Welcome to this VocalEye Almost Live event. My name is Amy Amantea. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator for VocalEye. I'm your host for these almost live events, and I'm a member of the blind community. And gosh darn it, am I so proud to be a member of this community. Such lovely, lovely folks. So thank you for enriching my life in this space and outside of this space. I also want to extend a big thank you to many of you who have been donors and supporters and contributors since we started this online platform, but also for folks who had been contributors when we were doing live events before the pandemic, and now that we're back doing live events. So many folks have made financial contributions, and if you have capacity and you'd like to support in that way, that can be done through our website. There's also a link in the chat, and the website is vocaleye.ca. So those are some places you can find us. But also, as I said to Tony before we hit record tonight, Tony sends some of the most lovely letters of the impact that VocalEye has had on a good old New Yorker. So friends, keep sharing the letters. We love to read them. I love to read them. And our funders know the kind of impact that this programming is making to the community to have accessible arts. And friends, if you happen to be watching us on our YouTube channel, because many of you are going back and watching things on the YouTube channel, we hope that you like and subscribe. So that's also ways in which you can support VocalEye, get those numbers up. All right, friends, I am going to transition into inviting Ingrid into the space, who is going to provide us with our land acknowledgement this evening. So Ingrid, space is yours.
Thank you. I was sorry not to be with you all last time, but I'm glad to be back. These land acknowledgements have been, I've been taking my cue for them from the 94 calls to action that were laid out by the Truth and Reconciliation Committee earlier in Canada. And one of the calls to action is to acknowledge the lands that we're on and to name the people whose territories we're on. So here in Vancouver, we're on the ancestral lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. They've stewarded these lands and waters for many thousands of years. We respect and appreciate that their stewardship has made this a good place to live, despite our having displaced them from their lands. So as I just said, acknowledging Indigenous people in their ancestral territories is an important part of addressing the historic wrongs done to Indigenous people here in North America. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission, it wrapped up in 2008, and in the course of its work, it investigated and documented atrocities perpetrated against Indigenous people in the colonization of North America, residential schools in particular. And the Commission made recommendations to prevent such atrocities from happening again, which include these 94 calls to action. So we've been through the first 42 calls to action, which are about redressing the legacy of harm done to Indigenous peoples in Canada. And the next calls to action are about reconciliation. So number 43, it sounds really basic and simple, not quite as basic and simple as it sounds, but here it is. We call upon federal, provincial, territorial, and municipal governments to fully adopt and implement the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People as the framework for reconciliation. The declaration is called UNDRIP for short. It was passed by the UN General Assembly in 2007 after more than 2 decades of negotiations, and Canada voted against it. It's during the course of the negotiations, the English-speaking countries frequently objected to the draft declaration, rewriting over dozens of articles and even removing some. These changes were made despite boycotts and hunger strikes by Indigenous delegates and included changes to the final article, Article 46. The original text stated, "Nothing in this declaration may be interpreted as implying for any state, people, group, or person any right to engage in any activity or to perform any act contrary to the Charter of the United Nations." While the revised article added, "Any action which would dismember or impair totally or in part the territorial integrity or political unity of sovereign and independent states." Countries, in other words. So the key addition here puts the states' interests first and foremost, and it gives states a backdoor out of the declaration by excusing any of the content they disagree with as a threat to territorial integrity or political unity. In November 2010, the Canadian government reversed its position and asserted its support for the declaration as an aspirational document. The eventual UN declaration affirms the inherent collective human rights of Indigenous peoples, as well as the individual human rights of women, men, and children. It provides a framework for justice and reconciliation, applying existing human rights standards to the specific historical, cultural, and social circumstances of Indigenous people. Critics believe that UNDRIP's fundamental flaw is that it was created with intrinsic power structures intact, leaving the state with ultimate control. I'll leave you with that to ponder, and let's look at some murals that have been designed and painted on these beautiful lands of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish people.
Thank you, Ingrid. Gosh, I learned so much when we do these land acknowledgements, especially through your lens of sharing the 94 calls to action, which has not been a very accessible screen reader accessible document. So it's been really helpful for me to be able to have access through this way.
I'm happy to do it, Amy.
Thank you. All right. Well, it's another Wednesday, friends. It's August the 10th, 2022, and we are proud this evening to offer you our Almost Live event number 95. Yes, 95. We have almost reached the big 100. Stay tuned for what that's going to entail. So we're at 95, friends. I can't even believe it. It sounds unbelievable to me, but I love it. And tonight we're going to do our crowdsourced description project, our Crowder, featuring the Vancouver Mural Festival. So as we jump into this, I'm going to bring in Adrian Sinclair, who is our contact at the Vancouver Mural Festival. So Adrian's going to pop on in, and we're going to have a little chat. Adrian, welcome, welcome. How are you, my friend?
I am very good. I'm so happy to be here.
We're so happy to have you. Thank you for lending your time to our 95th event. So maybe just because you're new to the space, is there anything you'd like to share with us about your background, or your role with the Mural Festival, perhaps, just to sort of get us familiar with Adrian? Who's Adrian?
Sounds good. Let's see. So yeah, my name is Adrian Sinclair. I've been around at Mural Fest since the beginning. And so I guess that was 2016. And yeah, we've been putting this together in different sort of ways over the years. There's sort of like the pandemic version, which was different than before. It was more of a festival, and then we kind of turned it much more into a kind of art-based sort of personalized guiding walking tour by yourself. Last couple of years, we developed an app, which is really nice, and they're kind of back to now sort of events. So it's been an interesting journey that way. Yeah, my role is I'm director of engagement, so it's mostly community projects that create community benefit, have a social impact or a political impact, and really finding ways to support different voices, communities, and perspectives to get up on the walls, and then also events and programming as well around that. So bringing murals off the wall and happening in live kind of performance. We've had a lot of drag this year. I mean, how cool is drag? It's
Very
the
cool.
coolest. And I think half of our programming is drag this year. So I'm so happy about that. I mean, I'm kind of off track already, as usual with me. Back to me, because this is about me. Let's make it about me.
It's about you. It's all about you.
It's about me. Yeah, it's all about me here. Yeah, and so like my passion is seeing people just light up in their strengths and in their and what they bring to the world, the gifts they've been given. And so my goal always is to find how to kind of create a spotlight for that, a stage for that, a place for it, and then resource it and find a way to get folks to get stoked on awesomeness. So whatever that is for those communities. So yeah, it can take lots of different forms, and then long-term planning to make it happen consistently over multiple years. That's the other piece too, is like, how do we make things happen with consistency?
Right.
So I
Yeah.
just want to throw that back to you because you just mentioned 95.
I know.
And I feel like an amazing thing to do in building community is just to repeat. And I think like just being willing to repeat and to iterate and to refine and to adjust, I think is something that I really respect whenever I see it. So hands up to you guys for just making this all happen 95 times. I think that just shows a lot of perseverance, and yeah, really exciting to be.
Well, we wouldn't be able to do it if we didn't have our folks that keep joining us week after week, who are, craving connection with community, but also want to be here for the art and all sorts of things. So so now you said the Vancouver Mural Festival started in 2016, and I was wondering if there was like an impetus around that. There's like is there an origin story around the festival that you can share or that you know?
Yeah, I mean, really quickly, basically it's like there's sort of kind of three pieces that came together. So Andrew's the executive director. We've been in sort of an event duo since 2009. And we had an event company that was all about creating events for social purpose or social impact based business, like nonprofits. So we'd throw a party for the BC Civil Liberties Union, so their fundraiser, or we'd throw an event for like the Save the Sailor Sea event, in the North Shore. We'd be throwing lots of these events. So we have lots of event based stuff on that side. And then we just met actually folks that are really good at marketing and brand and public engagement, which is Dave Vertesi and Gabe, so musician and advertiser, those two. And then we also met at the same time Drew Young, who was doing these weekly live art events at a local pub for every Tuesday, a live art event at a local pub where you could get raffle tickets to buy amazing art at a really low price. And then he did every Tuesday for 4 years, called Snag. So all of us together came together, and it's sort of, okay, it's a Transformers metaphor, but please let me, I don't know. There's this Transformer called Voltron, where all the different Transformers make this one big Transformer.
Yeah.
Like really awesome and works together. And like one arm is a car, another arm is a truck. So that's kind of our festival, is that kind of all the different Transformers turn into one big Transformer. And then we did some pretty intense pitching and fundraising the first year, and got the city of Vancouver. We kind of challenged the city of Vancouver to match our fundraising of what we had raised from the private sector for murals. And we did a lot of meetings, and eventually someone said yes, they matched our funding, and we were able to come out the gate pretty quick. And but now we don't receive much funding at all from the city. Most of it's from the province and from like people who want murals on their buildings. And so that's how we pay for the whole thing, is people pay year round for getting murals on their buildings, and we use that to fund all the art. So yeah.
Okay. How many murals do you think there are in the GVRD, I guess? Or are they all in Vancouver? Or are they in
mostly? Yeah, mostly. We're starting to work in Tsleil-Waututh and Squamish territory up there in so-called North Shore, and we're doing a little bit.
I know there's a couple in Edgemont Village where
we're doing some new ones. We're doing some new ones. We're doing some ones with Chief Janice George and Ange George and Deborah Sparrow. We're doing a piece on the dock, the dry dock there. But there's about over 350 murals actually. Yeah.
350.
Yeah.
And we're gonna show them all here tonight, friends.
That's right. It's a 400-hour episode.
We're not. I can't even imagine how exhausted we would all be after listening and sharing all of that work. But because one of the things I think is great about the Crowder project, and we'll talk about that with Jiten and Lindsey in a moment, but I will often walk past murals and not really know that they're there unless somebody points them out to me. This is the thing about, being blind or low vision and having public art around, or, like murals. And so I think what we're doing here tonight is a real way of opening up access to the community. So I'm really excited about that. Anything else we need to know about the festival itself? Because it's happening right now. Right now, you're in the middle of this year's festival. How are things going so far? Oh, we need to allow Adrian to unmute. It's because he doesn't want to tell us how things are going right now.
I'm back. Thank you. Sorry. I accidentally muted and then I have to unmute. But it wasn't letting me because it was being tough with me. Sorry, what was the question?
I was just curious because you're in the thick of the festival, this year's festival right now. So how are things going with the festival?
Really good. This year we transformed a local motel into our largest mural at 6th and Main. So we painted all the walls and the parking lot, and we turned it into a live venue. And so we've been doing an event or two every day for 11 days, and they're free. And there's different curator for each day from different communities. And you can just kind of walk as vendors. There's food trucks. You can walk around, you can sit in different places, different placemaking areas where we've made sort of improvised street furniture. It's all multicolored. And then in the motel is all artists. So they all have units now. So it used to be, it's a real motel. And we've kept the license to be a motel, but now instead of there being folks visiting from out of town, it's all low-cost artist studios. So like you can go into the studios and meet all the different artists. And they're not just there during the festival, they're there year round.
Yeah.
And we bargained with the developer who bought the place because they're going to tear it down. But then we're sort of, some people in our community, we sort of called them up, cold called, and we're like, hey, don't turn it down. Let us put artists in it until you redevelop it. And so we signed a deal. We have minimum 2 years, but I think it'll be many more years, where we get sort of cheap artist studio space. Everyone has their own washroom and their own air conditioning because it's a motel. So that's amazing. And people there's tattoo artists, there's like a hairdressing salon, there's like photographers, sculptors, ceramicists, kind of no rules, actually. Don't tell the city.
I love that. I think that's really cool. I wish we had more sort of artists. Yeah, it's like a block. It's like a block of studios all together.
Kind of, yeah. It's like imagine
all on its own.
Pretty much, like it's 75 spaces, so 18,000 square feet of artist space, and we want to do a bunch more of these across the city. Now that we've sort of proven the idea, I think our goal is to kind of maybe do one in every neighborhood, or I don't know. We're just really excited about the model, and we think we can actually. There's so many spaces in the city that are left vacant, and if folks can just trust us to turn it into wacky art spaces.
Well, let me know because I might be interested in a wacky art space. So
good. Well, we're in the business of that apparently. So
yeah. Accessible pricing. Anyways, I digress. All right, Adrian. So we're gonna introduce our Crowder project now. So I'm gonna just say goodbye to you for the moment.
Bye.
And, bye. We'll see you in a bit. We're gonna bring in Lindsey and Jiten, who have been well, we've all been working hard in the last couple of months to put this Crowder project together, and I'm going to give both Lindsey and Jiten an opportunity to set up what the Crowder is. If folks are like, I don't remember, I know we did this a couple times before, but Jiten, you want to kick us off? What is the Crowder? Make sure our friends can unmute here.
There we go. The Crowder, yes. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Jiten.
So this is a project where we solicit descriptions from everyday people, whether they're experts in the field or not. Some of those people who offer descriptions are professional audio describers. Some of them are people who are aspiring to that, and others are just offering what they see and their own personal experience. And the hope is that when we gather a whole bunch of these descriptions for the same artwork, it provides a really unique experience for the listener.
Awesome. So
go
ahead, Lindsey.
I was just going to say what we asked people, going on the lines of, how people participated and what we asked from non-experienced audio describers to regular people on social media, the crowd itself. It was very simple. The instructions were just to describe, tell us what you see and how it makes you feel. And it was just as simple as that. And just based on the second question alone, we got a wide range of subjective responses, which were super, super awesome.
Yeah, one of the things I do love about the Crowder is, as we know, anybody who describes something is going to bring everything in their life up to the moment that they describe something, right? Or that they're experiencing something. And how I would describe it would be different. How Lindsey would describe it would be different. How Jiten would describe it. But it doesn't make it wrong or bad. It's a different perspective on the same piece of work. And isn't that what we kind of want from our artwork, is to create discussion and get different perspectives and, learn from each other. I mean, this is what I want. I'm going to say it's what I want from my art experiences. So I won't project that on anybody else. But I think that that's one of the interesting things that the Crowder does. So now, Jiten, you're not new to the VocalEye space because you were with us as an intern, not this year, but last year.
That's right.
And then folks may remember that Deanna was with us as an intern from Adler this past year. So you were with us the first time we did the Crowder project.
And the second time.
And the second time, that's right. And the second time. And Lindsey's just relatively new, but has been doing like marketing and behind the scenes stuff with VocalEye. So maybe the two of you can just give a quick soundbite of who you are and how you came to be with VocalEye, just for folks who may be new tonight.
Sure, I can start. So yeah, Amy was mentioning that it was through Adler University. I did this internship. Adler University, I mean, there's a few different things that they do, but it's a lot in the psychology field. I was doing the counseling psychology program, and in our first year, they get us to do some sort of community work before we're necessarily ready to do our clinical work. And then when that wrapped up, I got involved with this Crowder project, and I figured that it would be nice to continue that role in whatever small way was needed as it keeps going.
Small way, that's it feels like it almost feels like it's an oxymoron, because it you say small way, but it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work.
It's certainly a long process that involved in putting these things together.
And Lindsey, how did you come to be with VocalEye, and what's your role been with the Crowder?
I was working with an organization called Real Wheels Theater prior to coming on with VocalEye, and I have a long history with Real Wheels, doing communications and marketing with them. And so through working with Real Wheels, all of our theater shows had one or two performances that had audio description, as Real Wheels is a company that is very diverse and promotes accessibility. So I already knew Steph and Amy through that, and I was doing a contract for Real Wheels, and Steph approached me and asked me if I'd like to do something similar with VocalEye, and I said, heck yeah. And that was over a year ago now. So I do marketing and communications for VocalEye, and it was a big piece of this project, obviously, for the Crowder, because we had two tiers of it. You could participate via social media, so I do all of the social media posting, and then also through the Google Doc form, which Jiten took care of that part, and I did all of the posting on, and it all went out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So there's three platforms that people could participate on.
And we did this on Mondays, right? We called them Mural Mondays.
Mural
Mondays.
Yeah,
and right. Posted them, and then collected all the feedback from all the various angles. How many murals did we send out into the world for description?
We did 24. So yeah, and over the course of 3 months. And obviously, as Adrian mentioned, there were plenty of murals to choose from. So there was a bit of a process involved with that as well. And the whole VocalEye team was involved with that. And we narrowed it down to 24. And we on Mural Mondays, we had 2 new murals each week.
And so tonight we're going to see, obviously we're not going to share all 24 of them on this platform, but we're going to share the 3 of the top described ones. It was going to be 4, and one of the murals called the Healing Quilt. We were anticipating having the artists here in the space to have conversation, but actually, since they're unable to join us, they will be back on October the 12th with an event all on their own to talk about their work, a couple of Indigenous artists, and I'm really, really looking forward to that event. So we're going to do the 3 tonight, and I think that'll be plenty for us to be able to digest and talk about these works and listen to the crowdsourced descriptions of these works. I just want to know from the 2 of you if there's anything else that we want to set up about the Crowder project before we jump into the first mural.
I think we've covered it.
Yeah, I think we got enough foundational information for folks, because I always recall, there are folks on this tonight in the room who have experienced this before, folks who've never experienced it, and of course, folks on our YouTube channel who may never have experienced this. So it's good to set up the context of what we're about to do. All right, so I think we've got the first mural. So I'm going to get Rick to bring up the first mural. And then Jiten's going to provide a bit of information around the area, and Lindsey's going to provide some information around the artist. So Rick, can you please bring up that first mural for us? And Jiten, I'm sure this one has a title, but why don't you set this up for us? Where are we?
Yeah, we're in the River District. So the title of the mural is "We Can't Do It Alone" by Fernanda Ribeiro. And the River District is about it's far south and east as you can go in Vancouver. It's right next to the Fraser River. You're almost in Richmond. You're almost in Burnaby. It kind of feels like you're not in Vancouver, to be honest, because it's like very natural. You know, there's this mural itself is on a bike and a walking path, and I think there's a whole bunch of them nearby. This is one of maybe 15, and it's attached to this chain link fence. It's a little bit taller than the chain link fence, and it's quite a bit wider. It's about 3 times as wide as it is tall.
So do you think it's about the length of like a city bus? Is it that long?
Just about, I would say. Yeah, maybe
okay.
A little shorter.
Yeah. So we got a good length here and a lot of vibrancy of color, but we're going to get into the description in a moment. Lindsey, do you have anything about the artist that you want to share?
I do, yeah. Fernanda is a Vancouver-based artist. She's an illustrator and a product designer. She's got a very original graphic sort of style. It's a cheerful, colory, poppy colors. And this was the first mural she has done with the Vancouver Mural Fest. And I believe this was her first mural in general. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, you can get on with the descriptions.
Awesome. So friends, how this is going to roll is our VocalEye team have all volunteered to voice these descriptions. So I'm going to stop talking for a moment, and they are going to take turns introducing who wrote the description and voicing those descriptions. And just so you know, we had to edit some of them because some were quite long, right? But the plan is at some point, we will have this all on a platform on our website and a couple of other phased in projects to keep this sort of this journey, this discussion going. But for today, we're going to talk about these 3 murals, and we're going to start with this one. So Jiten, I'm going to put it in your hands to lead the charge.
Thank you. Yeah, Ingrid has our first description.
Yes, I'm reading a description provided to us by Mara, who's an artist, educator, and new audio describer streaming from Portland, Oregon. Here's how Mara described this mural. A brightly colored image of 12 people doing various things among plants and animals. The work is more in the vein of illustration and graphic design, not realism. Things represented in the mural are made up of clean, flat shapes and vibrant colors. Against a buttery yellow background, we see a scene that is not happening in real time, but visually appears to be all happening together. Dark green trees with thick trunks and short branches with only a few leaves on them. Flowers grow straight into the air, some as tall as the trees. Some resemble daisies, some tulips, and some are just little balls growing on the ends of green stems. The animals pictured are from all over the world. A bright blue elephant wraps its trunk around the stem of a flower. A pink flamingo stands on one leg. An orange fox with a white tipped tail sits under a monkey that hangs off a tree branch by its tail. It reaches down to a piece of fruit held by a child. A blue koala bear grips onto a tree. 4 white birds with blue wings fly in different parts of the scene, except for one that is resting on a branch. All of the animals are spread out evenly between the people as if they're all used to hanging out with each other. There appear to be 3 children, and the rest look like young adults. They have a variety of hairstyles, a vast spectrum of skin colors, and clothes of various patterns and colors. Their limbs are exaggerated, long and thick. Their heads are small in comparison. Many of the faces have cute little pink or red circles over their cheeks. The people in the scene are doing all kinds of things. Some interact with the animals, some interact with each other. Some kneel tending to potted plants or watering them. One child leans back on a man's lap as she looks up at a blue balloon that she holds in her extended arm. Another child rests her hand on the back of the flamingo as if they were buds. At the center of the mural, a female presenting person with light tan skin stands facing us. She wears a long sleeved white cardigan over a knee-length yellow dress, the same color as the mural's background. It has a diagonal pattern of squiggly brown lines. Her hands overlap over her heart, as if in prayer. Lindsey, you're going to tell us about Megan's take on this mural.
Thank you, Ingrid. Megan, who is slowly working towards her dream of getting a couple of donkeys, wrote, "What stands out the most in the mural is the creamy yellow background. The golden color has the feeling of the sun against my face on a summer morning. The background makes the whole scene feel inviting and warm. On top of the yellow background, there are 12 or 13 people who are gathered around plants and animals. Everyone is working together to tend to the plants and animals. The mood is very cooperative and joyful. The people and animals are not true to life. There is not much detail in their faces, bodies, or clothing. There are no shadows in this mural. It's two-dimensional. The outlines of the legs, shoulders, and elbows are rather block-like, but still have fluidity and motion. Almost like popsicles, the people look like they have been shaped by a mold. But like a popsicle, there is a level of uncertainty, like they could melt back into liquid paint soon." Over to you, Rick.
So Christy, an English instructor, published creative writer, and amateur rock painter who is partially sighted, wrote, "When I look at this mural as a smaller image, I see a crowd of people standing in a ragged line. They wear an assortment of clothing and are of varied races. The figures are boldly outlined and cartoon-like against a pale background. When I zoom into the image, however, each figure appears to be composed of collaged elements. I interpret the title as strength in numbers, but also as no one is an exclusive whole. We are all part of each other." On to Eileen for the next description.
Thank you, Rick. Leslie, who is enjoying the life of a retired senior, which includes being with friends, golfing, and family, wrote, "At first glance, we are met with a very busy scene that delivers a punch of color. The figures are strikingly bold and rich and are silhouetted against a sunny yellow background. There are a dozen human subjects in the mural representing a broad range of races, colors, and ages. They are dressed in brightly colored clothing, displaying dazzles of intricate patterns, stripes, and polka dots. The variety of animals shown are from many different regions of the world, including a monkey swinging in a tree, a mom and baby koala bear cuddled together, an inquisitive-looking red fox, and a large bright blue elephant. A section is devoted to fish in the sea, and there are many birds in the sky. Other living things like plants, trees, and flowers are also displayed here. The feeling from this mural is one of optimism and hopefulness. One woman is hugging a tree, and another crosses her hands on her chest in thankfulness. A buoyant feeling emanates from a small child who floats a balloon that resembles our planet. A boy feeds a monkey a piece of fruit, and a girl waters a potted plant, while another rests her hand on the back of a large red flamingo. These human activities tell the story, the theme of which is forewarned in the title, We Can't Do It Alone. It depicts a tale of the kinship shared in the stewardship of the earth. This mural reminds us of the importance of caring for all living things. The message is beautifully conveyed in this vibrant work of art. And over to you, Sarah, to tell us what Andrew thought.
Thank you, Eileen. Andrew, who is stuck in the countryside imagining the city, wrote, "In this painting, there are a dozen people, several animals, trees, flowers, birds, and even a few fish, and it all beams out at us from a bright yellow gold background. Everyone, adults and children, seems dressed for some yard work, but maybe they've paused to invite us over to take a walk through the park they're tending. Their figures seem realistic at first glance in all skin tones and ages, but they're drawn with sharp, clean edges, legs made out of straight lines, arms of sweeping curves with circular heads softened by their own distinctive hair. Everyone has an energized strength, emphasized by the old Popeye trick. Legs and arms get broader and stronger as they go out. No slender wrists and delicate ankles here. These people are solidly grounded on their home turf. 3 tall and narrow green rectangles behind the people represent trees seeming to grow on beyond the mural itself, while pink and more distant, there are 2 triangular conifers. In amongst the people as they stand, squat, or swing are thin but sturdy plants of various kinds, some head high, some lower and bushier, some being touched or watered by the people, some simply being enjoyed. And animals, also made of those strong graphic lines, a flamingo, perhaps a large fox, 2 koalas in a tree, and, wait for it, a blue elephant, trunk carefully twined around a tall flower, a grand assortment of beings that have come from all over the globe to feed and revivify the land. Jiten, on to you.
Thanks. This comes from Terry, a singer, writer, performer, and wannabe audio describer. She wrote, "This is a joyously happy mural painted on a sunshine yellow background. It depicts a community of people of all ages and ethnicities surrounded by and interacting with all sorts of whimsical animals and plants. Everyone is happy and either playing, doing something they enjoy, interacting with each other, or interacting with the animals. The mural is painted in a simple, flat, non-dimensional style, like colorful illustrations from a children's picture book. The people, in their flat, basic style, remind me of paper dolls, and the whole mural almost has a paper collage look to it. There's a feeling of happy activity and energy. The colors are bright, bold, and solid. There are 3 stylized trees with straight green trunks equally spaced across the length of the mural, which divide the mural into thirds. Around each tree are groups of people and animals. Along the front foreground edge of the mural are a variety of different flowers spaced out. To me, this beautiful, bright mural expresses a multicultural community living in harmony with each other and nurturing nature and the planet. If Mother Earth and the human race are going to survive and live in peaceful happiness, we're going to have to work together as a community to make sure that happens." And back to Ingrid.
Somebody called M writes, "A colorful, inviting mural celebrating caring for plants and featuring several animals. The design choices for female attire are most enviable." And that's it. Eileen, you've got one more from Lucy, I think.
Thank you, Ingrid. Lucy, a senior studying computer science with a focus on accessibility at the University of Washington, wrote, "This is a bright and colorful cartoon featuring a diverse group of people in front of a yellow background. The cartoon characters, which have dark, medium, and light toned skin colors, are playing and laughing together. The people also wear a variety of colorful patterned outfits. The character in the middle is wearing a yellow dress with a white cardigan and clasps her hand to her chest. All of the characters are surrounded by foliage, such as tall cartoon tulips, green saplings, and vibrant pink evergreen trees. The humans are also accompanied by birds, a blue elephant, a red fox, and a pink flamingo. To me, this mural depicts the peaceful coexistence of humans with each other and with nature. The bright yellow background evokes upbeat and happy emotions, and the characters are smiling and content. The title also suggests that this mural shows effective teamwork and the impact of existing in a supportive community. This is what our future could and should be like." And back to you, Lindsey, for our next mural.
Thank you so much, Eileen. We're going on to our next mural now.
Lindsey, before we do that, let's have a conversation about this mural.
Yeah.
Rick, you can take down the mural photo. Thank you. And we want to bring Adrian back in. And I want to just have a chat about this because for folks who are new to the crowdsourced description project, the Crowder, we listened to several descriptions of the same image, and some of the things that you hear that are similar, and a lot of things you hear that are different, and how people approach these. So I don't know for you all, but I'm wondering what stood out for you, because for me, this idea of paper dolls stood out, this collage-like idea of paper dolls. And one person, we kept hearing about the balloon. One person referenced the balloon like an Earth-like balloon, right? So you start to get these little puzzle pieces from different lenses that start to to create the full image, right? And how different everybody described the yellow background. Some it's goldenrod or pale, or right. So like really interesting how each person sort of interprets this. Oh, and the idea of, I really love this idea of the thick limbs being a reference to being grounded to the earth. That would never have been something that I would have picked up, even if I had perfect sight. It's probably not something I would have picked up on, right? Adrian, can you give us a bit of context for this mural? Like, do you obviously you know this artist, I'm assuming, or why this mural was chosen, why this artist was chosen? How old is this mural?
Yeah, yeah, people definitely like kind of hit the nail on the head in terms of illustrator. So she is a professional illustrator, and like most of our mural, or I'd say most, but actually I have exact statistics. 38% of our mural artists have never done a mural before. And then a much higher percentage have maybe done one small one, maybe like a large painting, maybe. But yeah, so a lot of our work is working with artists to give them an opportunity to do murals. And in the River District, the walls are much easier to do than like a building, because the walls we make them for the artists on the chain link fence. If we make them with plywood, like a special like high grade plywood, and the area itself has a lot of this fencing that is, I mean, it's not the most compelling place to walk because of all the fencing. And so the developer there is really supportive of the arts and really wanted a way to create community while they're developing the area. And this artist's actual work really deals with self-care. And a lot of people are picking up on that kind of community connectedness, working together kind of piece. And it was done during the sort of mandated stay-at-home orders that were happening in the early, this is 2 years ago, I believe. So 2020, the summer, 2020. Yeah, and lots of uncertainty, and it's different than 2021 where people were sort of figuring it out by then, but early 2020 spring, we can kind of all remember like lots of uncertainty. And so when the mural was made, the idea was like sort of, well, self-care is love, and also referencing the people in our lives. And those are the people with animals and plants and things that give us healing and strength when we have challenges. So that's sort of like that's the idea behind it. So, I mean, it's really coming through because lots of folks probably didn't read the description. They sort of got it really from the image, I think. And I think that says a lot about this artist's work. They can tell a really strong story that still is relatable to, like, you know, the general audience. And I think that's what's really important about public art, is if you can do both, if you can have a really unique perspective, it's really inspiring and eye-catching, and also can you also on top of that speak to a wide audience of people passing by, and will they sort of understand what you're trying to say? And I think this mural really does both really well.
Lindsey, for you, this being the first crowder you've experienced, sort of, because you were doing a lot of work on the back end, what was it like hearing those descriptions, and was there anything that stood out to you?
Yeah, I think one of the things that stands out most to me is just how poetic some of them are. And, it just reminds me about how, and thanks to the Vancouver Mural Fest too, just the, not only are these concepts have, such emotion and feeling attached to them from the artist, but from some of the descriptions we received, like as an artist myself, if I received that about my artwork, I'd be like, wow, you really got that out of it? That's incredible. Like there's such emotion in these descriptions and such thought. And it just makes you think about, especially in the age where we're so used to just scrolling through images and just quickly, consuming a lot of things all at once. It's just so beautiful to hear, people pulling such detail out of a piece of artwork right now, even if it is through an image that's digital and it is a physical piece out there, to even be able to grasp it that way as well. I just think it's, as an artist myself, I found it very, very inspiring.
I like that. Jiten, you've done this a couple of times now. You're no new kid on the block. Oh, I did it. I'm not gonna break it into song. But I could, but I won't. So was there anything different about this experience for you, just kicking into this crowder, or things that stood out for you?
Well, I mean, one thing I was thinking about is something that was a little different this time is we gave people 8 murals at once to choose from. Each month that was how many we had. So we never really knew which ones people would be drawn to. So I personally was a little surprised that this one got so many responses because it's so complex. There's so much going on in it. Like it's impossible to capture all the little details in it, at least in a 250 word description. But in another sense, it's like the perfect mural to do this for because everyone's going to focus on something different.
And I love, this exploration and subjectivity to me is something I've been interested in for a long time, even in the work that I do as a photographer. The framework of description has often been like at the top left, at the bottom right, at the in the middle, and this, and it like very like objective. But this idea when we bring in the subjectivity, like I was saying, the piece around the limbs of the body being sort of thick and grounding, right? That's a subjective thing. But it's something that's leaving an impact on the describer, who is my lens of this mural, right? So that's why I think the value is of having a whole bunch of folks do the description, because you get a little bit from all different kinds of perspectives, which I think is super cool. So we're playing fast and loose with the traditional rules of description here, but I love it. I love it. Okay, now it's time to go on to the next mural. So we'll say goodbye to Adrian for this moment, and we'll get Rick to bring up mural number 2. Bye bye, Adrian. You'll be back. You're not going far. And Rick, you're going to bring up that new image for us when you're ready. And all right, Jiten, set us up.
Okay, so this one is called Exhausting Machine. The artist collective, I believe, is called NeverCrew. And so for this one, we're on Industrial Avenue, which is a sort of an unusual corner of Vancouver. It's just east of Main Street and just south of Terminal. So we're quite close to the Science World SkyTrain station. And it's sort of like the last remnant of the industrial landscape that used to surround like False Creek and Yaletown. There are a lot of these old warehouse buildings. And one of the reasons they've been preserved, I understand, is that they've been repurposed. And this one in particular is called the Arts Factory. So it's been repurposed as sort of a shared working space for artists. And I think there's a few other things going on in there as well. There's a large scene shop as well. And I bike past this mural all the time, actually. And there's a few other murals on the other side of it too. So this is, even though it's some sort of old rundown looking buildings, otherwise, it's a really cool place to walk around because there's so many murals. And Lindsey, do you have anything?
Yeah, about the artist?
About the artist?
So yeah, you're right. NeverCrew is a collective. It's Swiss-based artists, 2 of them named Christian Rebecki and Pablo Togni, and they've worked together as muralists and artists as a collaborative for over 20 years now. So they have an extensive portfolio, and their work often focuses on the relationship between humans and nature. And a lot of their work is around the impact that we have on the environment and some of the systemic issues around that. And I absolutely love this collective's work. They do really amazingly large scale murals that are incredibly detailed in this similar style of sort of like combining graphic and almost hyper real qualities to it. Some very beautiful large scale murals all over the world, mainly in Europe and the States. I think this might be their only Canadian mural. I could be wrong, but yeah, amazing collective.
And this is quite a large mural again, right, Jiten?
That's right. Yeah, my guess is maybe like 6 car lengths. It's sort of like 2.5 stories tall because it's got these triangular peaks at the top. And yeah, some people in their descriptions reference there's a person in the picture, so it's like 3 times the height of the person.
Okay, yeah, all right, gives us an idea. All right, I'm ready to hear some descriptions on this piece.
Okay, great. Rick is going to start us off this time.
Thank you. Our first description comes from Christy, an English instructor, Polish creative writer, and amateur rock painter who is partially sighted. She writes, I see 4 pear-shaped figures huddled in a line on a background that is whitish on the bottom and bluish on the top. On to you, Jiten.
All right, this description comes from a different Rick, who is retired from working life as a filmmaker, still trying to succeed as a husband and father. He wrote, "This is an arresting image, brightly colored, big, filling the wall space of a long, low, whitish blue building, extending up into the series of peaks which meet the roof. The scale of the image is given in the photograph by a human figure who walks in the lower left corner toward the mural, dwarfed by its scope. Mostly we see a vibrantly red plastic beverage bottle, the kind used for soft drinks, lying on its side, partially crumpled, devoid of any labeling which might once have been attached to it. The lid is gone, but the bottle is certainly not empty. Within the shiny red plastic, we see a furred creature of some sort, almost filling the bottle, like the models of clipper ships that sometimes fill glass bottles as an act of mysterious craftsmanship. The creature has a beak-like snout, large open eyes, suggesting that it is alive, and forepaws that look almost like flippers. The creature lies on its back and seems to be both trapped and preserved. The image speaks to issues of natural destruction, pollution of the environment, and the impact our industrial society has on other species. It's a beautiful image, but unsettling, and very successful in that sense. We want to look at it, but having done so, are left with a disquieting, visceral reminder of what we've done to the planet." And back to Lindsey for the next description.
Thanks, Jiten. This next description comes from Melissa, who loves the art of audio description, and she writes, "The building is a unique shape. The warehouse is a block long, and its roof is a series of triangular peaks, so the wall the mural is on has a jagged top. The mural has a light blue background. The entire length of the mural is a 4-liter red plastic pop bottle that is slightly crushed and crumpled to fit into the triangular parts at the top of the walls. There's a bendy straw stuck into the mouth of the bottle. The bright red pop bottle stands out so much that it takes a moment to realize that inside the bottle is a polar bear lying on its back. This mural has a painting of a bright red bottle lying on its side. It looks like the bottle has been squished. There's a small blue straw coming out of the bottle, and inside the bottle there is a polar bear lying on its back. This makes me feel sad for the polar bear and very claustrophobic as well. The background of the mural is light blue, and there is a shadow of the bottle and straw." Over to you, Ingrid.
We got Ingrid with us?
Oh, you guys, I was reading so beautifully.
Ah, there you are. You're unmuted, but go ahead, my friend.
Yeah. So M had this to say about this mural. "I see a person dwarfed by a massive, crushed, vibrantly red plastic bottle. The bottle's alarming scale near what looks to be housing shows the danger of plastic and environmental concerns. The red plastic is also distasteful as it reminds a viewer of the Koon's monstrous sculptures. I'm curious as to whether the person will touch the sculpture and possibly see their image reflected." Eileen, what does Lucy have to say about this mural?
Thank you, Ingrid. Lucy, who will be pursuing a PhD in computer science at Cornell University starting next year, wrote, "A very large, bright red plastic bottle with a straw poking out the top is in front of a light blue wall with a uniformly jagged top edge, slightly tilted equilateral triangles rather than the usual straight wall. The red bottle is crushed and crumpled, with the indents corresponding to the parts of the wall that are between the jutting angles of the top edge. The bottle is also reflective and slightly transparent. Inside the bottle, there is an otter on its back with its hands clasped together and its eyes closed. The title suggests that this is a comment on how exhausting society is, symbolizing that it can be crushing to have to exist as a cog in the machine. Another interpretation that I have is that this could be an environmentalist statement as well, since there is an animal trapped within the plastic waste that is created by humans." And back to you, Rick.
Thank you. Our next description comes from Hila, a theater maker and educator. "This large mural depicts a polar bear stuck in a red plastic bottle. A straw is peeking out of the bottle. The bear's look seems sad, helpless, as its body is crumpled up inside the bottle. The mural is painted over a light blue wall that has roof spikes on it. The way I react to the mural is with an aching heart to the poor animal and to the clear metaphor and message about climate change, about plastic and our current industries and what they do to nature and the wildlife. It also feels like a prison, like we as humankind are stuck somewhere and can't get out. I hope this mural will help make the change that we so desperately need. Sarah has our next description.
Thank you, Rick. Andrew, who admires the way that colorful murals fight against the tasteful monochrome of most architecture, wrote, "Exhausting machine is on the side of a building that's been painted bright, snowy white. This wall's about 6 meters high and has an unusual roofline with large triangular ridges, looking like a saw blade or a row of frozen Arctic ice waves, or a lower jaw full of teeth. The mural is about 20 meters across, occupying the space below 5 of these teeth. It shows a single plastic pop bottle lying on its side, tinted an acidic light red or dark pink, with realistic areas of sun glare and transparency. The part of the bottle nearest the ground is undamaged, but the upper half has been crushed to fit into the spaces between the triangles of the roofline, as if a top set of teeth had chomped down on it. It takes a second look to see that there's something inside the bottle, almost filling it. It's the body of a polar bear, made red by the coloring of the bottle. The head is lifted a little, meaning it may still be alive, or perhaps its neck has been trapped in that position by the crushed plastic. A plastic straw sticks jauntily out of the top of the bottle. At each end, the shadow of the bottle has been painted on the wall, increasing the three-dimensional effect. While maintaining the nobility of the real animal done to death by throwaway plastics, it carries a sick echo of old pop commercials, which featured an animated polar bear. And that's it for this mural.
Oh, there was something about that last bit what made me think of the big "they shall not be named" company that has the polar bear. Oh man, I got chills. All right, let's pull this one down, Rick, and bring Adrian back into the space. Shivers, no pun intended, right? Because I also think when I hear about the roof line, the jagged roof line, that it feels to me like solar ice caps, or the melting of the solar ice caps, right? Adrian, I'm going to throw this to you first. Can you give us some context about this mural, about this artist?
Yeah. So yeah, like it was mentioned, there's two Swiss artists, and it's like a sort of interesting piece of trivia. Not in the picture, so you couldn't see it. It's not, but it's beside the mural. I wish that we had a different picture on the website. Actually, there's a they secretly, there's like, how there is a straw coming out. Everyone mentioned the straw coming out of the
Oh yeah, the little bendy straw. Yeah.
Yeah, so the bendy straw, exactly. So there's a light post just outside the screen. And the artists, they didn't ask, of course, but they painted the light post like a bendy straw. So it's like blue and white, just like the bendy straw. But you know how light posts kind of bend at the top?
Yeah.
You can put the perforated bend paint lines on it. So that's a pretty funny piece of trivia there. And actually, it's funny, artists, they have permission for the wall, but they'll usually like do a bunch of other stuff nearby that's not allowed. So we get kind of in trouble sometimes. So it's kind of funny. They're really they're one of the kind of world famous mural artists who basically there's this crew of mural artists, there's a couple hundred of them, where they just kind of have like endless summer, where they just kind of just fly around and stop as the earth turns and as the seasons change. They just keep staying in summer and keep painting murals, and just every 2 or 3 weeks they just keep bouncing around the globe. And it's kind of I'm a little bit jealous, but
Yeah,
not really, because I don't like flying that much. So they're kind of part of that crew. And what's neat about them is they have very environmental focus, but also they get such love from the street art community. So it's kind of an interesting mix. They have like lots of cool credit. But yeah, it is a very poignant image, and it's cool that it's on a building that's full of artists.
Okay. So with my partial, there's great contrast between the sort of the whitish background and the red or pink color pop bottle. Like that really pops. I had no idea until the description started to tell me that there was something inside the pop. I had no idea. I just thought it was crumpled and there were some like shadowy things happening. No idea. So that was a real shocker for me to find out. And again, something I would never notice if I had walked past it to that level of detail. So Jiten, are there things in this particular mural that, or in the description of this mural that have, I don't know, have impacted you in a way, or that have really, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, stood out to you?
Yeah. I mean, what I was thinking to myself was that in the past, when we did something like Canoe Lake, for example, that Tom Thompson, we got really different opinions as to like what feelings it evoked, what the general vibe was.
Mm-hmm.
With this one, it seemed like it was across the board. People found it pretty unsettling, pretty disturbing. Yeah, I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's definitely says something about the artwork that there was such a like universal, strong response to it.
Certainly doing its job in provoking conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lindsey, for you, you started off by saying that you were big fans of this.
Yeah, I love their work. I love their work a lot. And I think what stood out to me about the descriptions, and in general, I guess, of the Crowder, again, picking back up just the poetry of some of these descriptions, and in particular, some of the ways that some of the words people chose to describe color. So I love the way that, I don't know if it was in the last one or not, but, describing the red as acidic, and, these different sort of tones of color, and even throwing in a word like the straw sits jauntily out of the bottle. Like it just kind of like really enlivens the description. And I'm curious how that works for you, Amy, as bringing a little bit more to the artwork as well, and being able to visualize it more.
Yeah, the more evocative the language, the better. And like, I'm not sure that acidic is something that I would reference with a color necessarily, but it gives me a vibe, it gives me a mood of what's happening and why maybe this color was chosen, because it feels that kind of acidic. And and it seems like such simplistic language to say that the pop bottle is a bit like a prison.
Mm-hmm.
And how evocative that is, because you don't have to have been in a prison to maybe understand what that might embody, right? So it's a pretty universal type term, but it really says a lot in one single word, which is what, like, again, when I come away from these kinds of projects, after I listen to it, like, these are the things that I resonate on, that I keep thinking about. And if I take anything away from this, I feel like there's an imprisonment here of an animal that has been trapped by the waste that mankind produced, right? And it's like that is this image to me. If I had to write like a log line for it, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty impactful stuff. And so I really appreciated everybody sharing all of their perspectives. Even though they were very similar, there were lots of nuance in there, again, that helps me put together the puzzle pieces of what's bringing this image together. Any last thoughts from anybody? We got just a couple minutes, and then we'll listen to our last mural.
I had another thought too, just why I really like these artists as well, and some of the other murals that we covered in the Crowder that are not going to be featured tonight. But I really like how these artists really used the wall and the shape of the wall to create the piece. So how it had the jagged edges, and how, the image kind of goes, is contextual that way, like really uses the environment and makes that a character of the piece as well. That's really interesting.
So Adrian, did y'all get in trouble from the city for having painted a lamppost? Or have they not noticed yet?
Never noticed, actually, which is great. And I just have to say, like, I have to agree with Lindsey that the sort of the muralists, that like there's lots of different sort of ways to do murals, no right or wrong way. But when I do find more often than not, the more experienced muralists really let the wall work with them, not against the wall. Like it's not creating a square like a canvas and then sort of projecting it onto a wall. You kind of really want to work with the wall, the material of the wall, the substrate, which direction it's facing, where you can see it from. There's lots of angles that you can't see a mural from and you can see it from. These two are definitely, they really, the strange roof design. Someone mentioned that they're triangle, but they're not isometric. Like I think in the description, I thought that was like so brilliant. I've always known there's triangular roof pieces, and I loved how the bottle crunches in accordance with those triangular pieces. But I never realized that they weren't isometric, and it blew my mind. And I was like, oh, because it's a really quirky building. And I think that's why. It's because they're not, the triangles are slanted. So I don't know. Now I'm all curious as to why. So I think it's interesting also how murals, and even in this program that we're participating in tonight, there's so many ways of understanding, experiencing the world. And I think it's really interesting that because murals are mixed media already, to bring the mix of verbal description to describing the visual phenomenon, it's really, I think like murals are the coolest. Now I'm like really interested in murals. I guess I work at the Mural Festival, so that works. But I'm appreciating muralism in a different way tonight. So I'm actually more reflecting on my own experience right now. But I'm actually kind of getting more excited about murals right now.
Well, with that lovely sentiment, I think that puts us nicely in the position to talk about the last mural that we have to share. Because again, I think it hits on some of the things that Adrian has just said about reflecting on the space that we're in. So Rick, why don't you bring up this third mural, and then Jiten, you can do your magic about talking us through the space that we're in Vancouver with this mural. All right, it's up on our screen now for those who have partial. And Jiten, where are we in the world?
We're at Main and Broadway. This is the backside of I think it's an apartment building. So for anybody who is not a Vancouverite, this is a very busy part of the city, a very cool part of the city too, very desirable. It's also a pretty chaotic part of the city right now because there's a subway being built and there's a subway station being built right at this intersection, which I'm told actually gives you a better view of the mural because a building got knocked down and there's a big pit there. So it's actually less obstructed than it may have been in the past. Yeah, so it's in terms of the physical shape of it, it's sort of like two murals side by side. They're separated by this empty courtyard space. Each mural is maybe like 2-3 car lengths wide and 3 stories tall. And then there is also this connecting piece between them. It's hard to tell in the picture, but it's a brick wall that's been painted to become part of this larger sort of dual mural.
So I'm going to say if we look at this kind of like a giant U shape, but instead of it being a rounded U, it's a block U.
Yeah, the sides of the U are much, much larger.
Yeah, so there are 2 murals on the sides of the U connected by a low brick wall in between, creating that very strict line geometric U shape. Ooh, something like that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Lindsey, what do we know about the artist?
Yeah, so this was painted by 2 artists. I don't believe they're a collective. I think they must just be friends or colleagues. Adrian can maybe speak to that. But the artists are Drew Young and Jay Senetchko. And Drew Young is an artist and muralist, and he's actually the curator and artistic director of the Vancouver Mural Fest. He's an internationally exhibited painter with also a very unique style of his own. And his mural works often contain images of flowers. Jay Senetchko Drew is Vancouver-based, as is Jay Senetchko. He's a Vancouver-based artist whose primary medium is oil on canvas, and he often paints in a figurative style, most often people portraits.
Okay, that totally sets us up for this combination of floral and people. All right, I'm ready to get into the descriptions.
Nice.
Okay. Lucy, who just graduated from the University of Washington with the BS in computer science with a focus on accessibility, wrote, two large neighboring rectangular walls on the same building comprise the mural. On the left, a young girl with tan skin and dark brown hair sits in an abundance of flowering plants, including pink lilies and maroon chrysanthemums. There are some abstract scribbles on top in pink, yellow, and blue. The words "the present" in white text are superimposed on this side. On the right, an older man with white hair and sunglasses sits in a similar environment, surrounded by growing plants and brightly colored scribbles. The words "is a gift" in white text are superimposed on this side. The mural explicitly says that the present is a gift, but also shows how the time that we have with our aging family members or loved ones is not indefinite. It makes me feel as though I should cherish every moment that I am currently living in and not take them for granted. And over to you, Lindsey, for Melissa's take on this.
Thanks, Eileen. Melissa is an enthusiastic amateur describer and professional admin person, and she writes, from a rooftop, we're looking at two 4-story murals side by side, joined together by a 1-story piece at the bottom. In each mural, a single figure sits in a garden. On the left mural, a young person is in a light blue t-shirt and holds one hand lightly with the other. On the right mural, a man with white hair is wearing a pink collared shirt and a purple tie. He holds his hands in a similar way to the young person. The two figures look off into the distance, away from each other. Both murals are marked with loops of pink, yellow, and teal, which are woven into the garden and around the figures. There are words in all capital letters across the mural. The present is written over the left mural, and is a gift is on the right mural. And over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Lindsey. Joanna, who appreciates this fun challenge and the opportunity to contribute to the enjoyment of public art, wrote, the two murals make a set. The left-hand one is a portrait of a girl about 12 or 13 years old with long dark hair in a pale green t-shirt, one hand gripping the other a little tensely on her lap. She is seated facing us, but her head is turned to our left, maybe observing something or maybe avoiding looking at the painter directly. Tall pink lilies and rich purpley dahlias surround her. Thick and thin lines of yellow, turquoise, pink, and teal loop and swirl up and down the painting. Horizontally across the middle, in bold white capital letters, are the words, the present. The very similar right-hand mural is a portrait of a man with short white hair, bronzed skin, sunglasses, and a relaxed smile, wearing a rich purple tie against a perfectly ironed collared pink shirt. He too is sitting up straight, but his hands are much more loosely clasped in his lap. He looks off to our right and seems at ease. He sits amid tall stems and leaves with only a few flower petals partially visible. The horizontally placed white capital letters say, is a gift. The contrast of the tense girl and the relaxed man, together with the combined message that the present is a gift, represent different perspectives we have on life at different ages. The loops and swirls of color on both portraits at first recalled scribbles and handwriting, but could be the erratic paths insects fly. Now, Rick will describe the next description.
Thank you. I do hope I'm pronouncing this name correctly, and my apologies if I am mispronouncing it. Angela, a middle-aged woman who loves nothing more than walking the dog in the rain, wrote, the present is a gift is painted on two square walls on the side of an older style tenement building that is separated by a courtyard in the middle. The image on the left has the words, the present, written in white capital letters in the middle of the mural. Behind the words, but dominating the wall, is a person with dark shoulder-length hair and dark eyes. Their head is slightly turned to the right, and their gaze seems soft but distant with a closed mouth. There are They are wearing a soft pastel green short sleeve t-shirt. They are resting their hand on their lap with her left hand under her right. I might be mistaken, but it looks like half of the little finger on the left hand isn't present. They appear to be sitting in a garden filled with varying shades of green foliage. To the left, there are two large burgundy-headed blooms that could be chrysanthemums. In the bottom right corner, there is a bright pink flower that reminds me of cotton candy. Hanging from the top of the mural, there are 6 strands of colored bands hanging down. At first, I thought these colored arcs were graffiti, but I don't think they are. The mural on the right also has an image of a person. This time they are more senior with white short hair and tinted glasses. They seem to be gazing ahead with their body angled slightly toward the person in the other mural. Their mouth is slightly open, revealing their top teeth. They are wearing a pink long sleeve shirt with a purple Windsor knotted necktie. On their right wrist, just peeking out from the shirt cuff, they are wearing a gold watch. They too are sitting amongst lots of varying green shaded foliage. The foliage in this mural seem to be more mature than the foliage in the adjacent picture, and the only flowers are at the top of the mural in the center. Again in this image, there are the dark green and pink ribbons, but this time they are more prominent in the picture. Personally, I think the two small lighter yellow blobs that are just above the turquoise squiggle make it look like a line-drawn face smiling at you. When you step back and look at the mural as a whole, you can see that they are connected by a short black wall that has a darker green ribbon arcing twice to connect the larger walls. To make both sides feel connected, they have continued with a small amount of foliage from each of the murals onto the black wall. The more I observe the smaller detail in this mural, the more I feel like the ribbons could be connecting the two people together. Not knowing anything about this mural, I feel that the two people are either related or they are the same person, just older and younger. Ingrid is next with our next description.
Yes, this one is by Mara, an artist, educator, and emerging audio describer. Here's how Mara describes it. This mural is a difficult one to look at. I struggle to take it all in. My eyeballs keep moving back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, but I tell myself to slow down. Painted on each wall is a realistic portrait of a person in a seated position in a park with their hands crossed in front of them. Words in white are painted in front of their chests. On the right, it says the present. On the left, it says is a gift. I think Mara has reversed these, or maybe the photo is reversed. Anyway, to me, it looks like the young woman is on the left and the older man is on the right. I learned that they are indeed real people who are known residents in this neighborhood, Mount Pleasant. Their pictures were taken in Dude Chilling Park. The person on the left looks like a young woman of color with light skin and long, straight hair, straight dark brown hair. She might be a teenager or she could be 40. It turns out her name is Paisley Nahani. She's a Coast Salish First Nations woman who was born and raised in Mount Pleasant. She wears a white t-shirt and dark pants. She isn't looking at us. Her head is turned slightly down and to the right. Her eyebrows point up and her mouth is closed. To me, the expression on her face is just a person being present. Maybe I think that because the word present literally covers her chest, but she does not look sad or happy or anything, just maybe content. The person on the right looks like an older white man with short gray hair. He's probably over 60 years old, could be as old as 80. Turns out his name is Dr. Bob. He's worked at a local optometrist office in Mount Pleasant for over 6 decades. He's a little bit more flashy than the woman. He wears a long sleeved pink shirt and a dark purple tie, dark pants and eyeglasses that are slightly tinted. He has a smile on his face and his head is turned out at us. He's also sitting with hands resting on his knee. He has his left hand crossed over his right. Even though the two people in the portraits are not looking at each other, their bodies are positioned in towards one another. This makes them feel more connected. However, it isn't just the people I notice. My eyes are constantly moving, following the floral background. This is also painted realistically. I notice dark red dahlias, one light pink dahlia, large green leaves that are attached to the thick stalks of pink and white lilies. It looks lush and fills up most of the background of each portrait. My eyes also follow lines that I don't notice right away. They are large, scribbled, colorful lines. They don't represent anything realistic. They're just these crazy big squiggly lines that dart around the portraits. They even dart in front of the people at times, but leave their faces uncovered. I enjoyed looking at this mural. It's not one that's easy to describe because it's so busy and big. It makes me happy knowing there are real people. And that's it.
Okay. All right, friends. Rick, you can pull down that mural and we'll bring Adrian back. That was the final mural, but there's again a lot to unpack. And I love how one of the descriptions shared that these are actually people that live in the neighborhood that I would not have known. I would have thought that maybe they were two, you know, make believe people. You know what I mean? Like, but it seems to be that they're painted in quite a realistic way. Adrian, what can you offer in terms of additional context for this piece?
Where to begin? So it was our first year. The chimney fell off. Yeah, it's an ancient building. It's a pretty iconic one in the neighborhood. And yeah, the two folks, really interesting stories for both. I'm actually this Thursday, I'm going to go to Dr. Bob's optometrist. And I'm going to get my eyes dilated with those drops, and I'm going to, and I'm actually I have an appointment with him, or his son, I believe. It's really funny when we did the photography with him at first. We're like, hey, Ren, could we we want to get someone from the neighborhood? We really want to do a mural. You know, we showed him the wall and everything, but I guess he didn't really get that we were gonna do it like 5 stories high. So when he realized that his image would be 5 stories high, he was laughing so hard. He messaged us and he was like, I didn't know. He thought it'd be like a little mural with him in it, you know, a neighborhood mural. But he didn't realize he'd be on every single newspaper and like every image, like a bunch of articles. So he was really happy because yeah, he'd been an optometrist in the neighborhood for 60 plus years. And then Paisley, where to begin with Paisley? Paisley is an amazing DJ. Is one of the hosts of Hot Latch, which is a queer drag night at East Side Studios. If anyone hasn't been to Hot Latch, check it out. It's all Indigenous drag. She's Squamish, and her mom, Michelle Nahaney, is a very accomplished graphic designer and entrepreneur, and amongst many other things. She has a thing called Decolonizing Practices. Also is a really big piece of so many things. Anyways, I'm going to stop because we have limited time on this planet. But basically, their family is a really influential and important family in Squamish Nation politics and art. And Bob is this like super friendly, consistent person in the neighborhood, and so putting them together was really fun. And Senetchko and Drew have been doing artwork for 20-something years himself, and I think this is both of their biggest murals that they've ever done, and everyone got sunburns, so like really bad sunburns, and it was all in scaffolding, and we built all the scaffolding like ourselves at one point, which never do that because it's not cool. We don't do that anymore. But it was year 1. Don't tell anyone.
This is from 2016.
This is year 1. Yeah, we just didn't know anything at all. So lots of sunburns, dehydration, doing lots of all the wrong things. But we pulled it off. So, oh yeah, and the chimney, we had to pay for half the chimney when we broke it off accidentally.
Oops.
Yeah.
Oopsie.
Hey, Adrian.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Amy, I just have a question. Do you happen to know, I'm just so curious because I know both of Drew and Jay's work. So how did they design it? And did each person take a piece, or did they do similar stuff, or how did that work? How did they design it?
Well, they both have pretty good chops.
For sure.
In terms of painting. And so they both can do super realistic, figurative as well as abstract. So as far as I know, they both just like hung out on their own walls and just kind of tag team back and forth.
Mm.
I don't actually know exactly because I stupidly got engaged and married that summer, the first year we did the festival. And I was away for part of production and everyone hated me.
All right.
I didn't see what happened on that wall. I was literally in hot tubs and stuff on my engagement honeymoon thing.
Ooh.
And everyone wanted to murder me, and I was fine with it. And I'm a very hard worker, so they were confused.
Good for you.
So I don't have the exact detail on that.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea how long it took them to paint that particular mural? Because some
Yeah,
of
it
them
took them
continue. Yeah.
3 weeks.
Wow, I can't even believe you can do that in 3 weeks. I can't. It would take me years. It would take me years. I'd still be painting it.
That would be bad. Be expensive for renting scaffolding for years. That would be bad. We would be bankrupt, Amy. We can't do that. So what we would normally do though, if something like that were to happen, we always send crew. So if things get taking too long, we add more and more people. So for example, with Drew and Jay, at a certain point, like there's like the week rental and there's a month rental of scaffolding. Same thing with everything else. And so if something gets close to the month rental, it'll flip over to a whole other month. So we'll start sending tons of other crew and artists to come and get it so it gets done by four weeks, for example. Right. So these windows of like time. And once it gets scary, because we're a nonprofit, like send the people, and then it gets done. So like they're not superheroes. So we just.
But how do they know? Okay, so if this, how does somebody who is coming in on week 3, like right at the end, know where they're supposed to paint? Because they haven't been involved in creating the mural, right? So how would you know where to start painting?
Oh, so there's a draft, and it's all super like clear as to what is happening. All the paint codes and paint chips are all sorted in advance. And there's also throughout the painting, there's also production crew, site lead, site liaison, and production painters. And we have like a bunch of them. And part of people's artist fees, we do a quote and we figure out what they're going to need to. So year 1, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. But year 3, I guess, and up till now, we figured out that like we have a pretty sophisticated quoting and estimating system. We figure out how many we need. So yeah.
Okay, well that makes sense to me because it almost sounds like it's a bit of a giant paint by numbers then.
Yeah, it can be.
To some extent, it can be. Okay.
Totally. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing us about that process, because I was always confused as to how like one person puts a mural like this together, or 2 people or whatever. So it takes a village, as they say. Friends in our audience, this is your chance to ask questions of Adrian from the Mural Fest, or of Lindsey, who's also an artist, and Jiten, about anything that you witnessed tonight, or share anything that was really impactful to you. I know I got a whole list of things, but I'd love to leave space for folks. And don't you know it, we have a couple of hands already. So we're going to go to Louise first, and then we're going to go to Megan. So Louise, you are up, my friend.
Okay, I'm going to go on 2 of the paintings. The second one, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, on the second one, when they were talking about the bottle and being something inside that bottle, do you know what it really made me think of? And I'm going to sit here and say it, and I'm going to have some laughter, and it's okay. Has anybody ever been down to Playland or P&E where they've had that, where you go through the mirrors, like the glass, and you're trying to find your way out? Yeah. That's what I thought of. And maybe it sounded weird, but this thing in the bottle and trying to get out, I was thinking layers and trying to get out. So
well, yeah, and that the image of it is distorted on the inside.
So can you imagine me thinking, you're in the middle of that maze and you're trying to get out? That's what I thought of about this, the whatever trying to get out through the bottle and the straw. So I think that was a weird feeling and all that. It was a weird sensation, trying to think, okay, how'd something get out? Because you're saying it, a couple of the descriptions said, looking like it's trying to get out, of this squished area. Well, I think those glass areas sometimes being squished together and tighter than other spots. So that's why I said that.
Yeah.
Okay, the last one. Now, can I ask quick? Because I know down Science World, Main Street, that's at the bottom of Main Street. So these are about 10 blocks apart, the last 2 you described. Because Terminal and Main is about 0 block, I think, of Main. And the bottom of Main. And if you're saying it's going up Main to Broadway, and it's at Broadway and Main, the third one, am I correct? Did I hear
Yeah,
you
that's
correct?
right.
Okay,
Yeah.
what corner were you meaning it was on? Because it's on the corner, isn't it? I have two pictures of two buildings it could be on. Okay, it's the build. I'm not good at direction,
The
so
northwest corner.
northwest.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm wrong.
No, southwest.
Southwest.
Is there a
That's-
landmark there that you can?
There's a
orient?
big construction pit there right now. and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, I
really
haven't been
nice.
on Broadway in a while, but okay, I think that would be on the left. If you're coming from Broadway Station, is it on the left, the left-hand side or the right-hand side, like going towards UBC? Is it on the left side or the right side?
If
The
you're going-
right.
Yeah, if
The
you're going-
right.
if you're going
Yeah.
towards UBC. Well, it's interesting. It's kind of like a weird description of where it is because you can see it really well right now from Broadway.
That's what I'm
Um,
saying.
But
Yeah.
the actual building address, it's kind of like in between 10th and Broadway. But yeah, you can see it well from Broadway. And if you're going towards UBC, like you're walking towards UBC on Broadway, you're looking to the left.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
looking to the left, so it's out. So, well, I know on the left side, one side is got when you're at Broadway, there's a bus stop there, and going up is the bingo hall on the right, on going up
Right,
on
exactly.
Main.
It's close to the bingo hall. You got it.
Okay, I've got a picture where it is. It is neat when you can picture where something is in your mind,
Totally.
And I remember that building, because those are a higher building. Yeah, I can't picture exactly I used to when I did the bingo hall, I had more vision. So yeah, my vision's gone down since then, but I've always been visually impaired, but that, and when people described her as a teen and you're sitting there saying she's an older, a little bit older, it's interesting how people see somebody.
Mhm.
You get someone saying he's an old man, but maybe he might not be old, but he's older. It's like it's like in between. Do you get my point? It's like they're taking and is almost feeling like they're exaggerating an age.
Well, it's subjective, right?
Yeah, it is.
Unless they have their age written on their t-shirts or something, we would never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it's just unique in its own way how you're getting this picture of a really young person. Like at first, when I first listened to it, there's this couple first descriptions, I thought it was maybe grandfather and granddaughter.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Young is very subjective. Young can be 5, young can be 25.
Yeah. So
Totally subjective.
Or 41.
Or 41.
At
Or
my
41.
age, maybe. Yeah, so young.
But what I'm saying is I got this picture of one being the grandfather, one being the granddaughter.
Yeah.
Totally.
And because someone said a teen, one of the descriptions said, I think a teen. And that's where I got the idea from. So I just thought to share that. It was really unique.
Thank you.
I mean, it was very, the first one was unique too. Don't get me wrong. But those two just somehow, I had to share those two thoughts to you.
Awesome.
And thanks for clarifying where it was in Vancouver, the third one.
You're welcome.
All right, we're gonna go. We got a whole bunch of hands. We're gonna go to Megan, and then we have iPhone, which could be Nancy. And then we've got Mary, and we've got Tammy. So let's go to Megan. Give Megan a moment to unmute.
Okay, I really loved all of them, but the two of them that kind of connected to me about the ice caps and the ice cap mural. It reminded me of of how we need to change our planet, because it's everywhere. That's my roommate. She just likes to do that. Anyway, it kind of reminds me that we need to change, like to change our to save our planet, because it's like the sea level is rising, and it's just not it needs to be changed. We're slowly changing it, but it's not enough. Look what's happening now with climate change. The earth is spinning faster. Another thing that could also be causing by that too.
Yeah. It's a good point, Megan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for sharing that thought. I'm happy
You're so welcome.
it resonated.
Okay.
Okay. Is it Nancy on the iPhone? I don't know who's on the iPhone, but will the mystery caller please step up? Give a moment to mute. If you are labeled iPhone, it is your turn to speak. Maybe iPhone doesn't know they're labeled iPhone. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. Oh, I spoke too soon. I think we got to unmute. Go ahead, you're unmuted. iPhone, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, there you are, Nancy. We got you. Yeah.
Oh God, I don't know how to do this phone. Once again, I'd like to say thank you, Amy, for a wonderful Friday night. It was awesome. Quick question. The mirror that you guys have, thank you for describing that, because on Maywood Street, where my son went to school, they did one there. And I always ask my son, what's on the wall? Because I would like to know what was actually, it was at the school around surrounding with children. And I always want to know what's on the wall, and they painted really good. Do you guys do one with disability, like for blind people, or do you just imagine, like I hear you guys do one for white people with white hair and they're sitting in a chair? How about disability people? Do you guys do that too?
Is there disability representation in any of the murals that you know of, Adrian?
Oh,
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, so it's interesting. So we're into our second year of a program called Murals Without Walls.
Okay.
And I talk too much, to be honest. So I'm so not brev. I have no brevity built into my system. But I'll try to keep it short. It's so exciting. So basically it's a program where we do 2 or 3 workshops with folks in community. It's all online, done through Zoom, around creative process and creation of artwork. And then there's a process where then folks are selected to do, this year we did four murals without walls, so-called. And what's neat is all folks are artists with disabilities. And this year we're actually taking those pieces that they did, which we feature at our main event site, and we're going to be blowing them up with this like really high resolution digital printing you can do on construction scrim. Scrim is like that stuff that they put on hoarding, at construction sites, like the big super long, usually it's like some bougie image of someone sipping tea, like and playing racquetball, and
Or it
like,
says coming soon, whatever.
Coming soon,
Yeah.
Oh wow, that could be
like
fun.
so a real estate speculation opportunity near you kind of thing. But instead of that, we're doing artwork from these artists, and we're putting them up at the local next door, about a block away from the motel at 7th and Main, very close to actually one of these murals. I guess like 2 blocks away. There was this funny wooden sort of matrix that the park put up. I don't know what it's for, but we quickly messaged them. We're like, can we put art on that? And they're like, we weren't planning on that. I'm like, that doesn't matter. And so we're actually taking the artwork from these pieces, and we're putting it, they're actually like 10 feet by 12 feet, so quite large. And it's our second year doing it. And yeah, so we're actually, in terms of representation of disabled folks, like not necessarily, but the artists, we're supporting artists with disabilities to do murals. Yeah. And then and then they can create whatever they please. So yeah.
So Nancy, I have a deep desire for maybe next year or sometime coming up at the Mural Festival to try and get a group of us local blind folks to leave our mark on a mural.
That's good. That's good.
That sounds
I would like to
totally
see that
awesome.
Because,
Yeah.
Thank you. You did a wonderful job. Thank you for describing. So this is the first time, I can hear someone talk about something like this. And, I just came back from a concert with VocalEye, and I've never ever got to hear something on the stage and got to actually sit and listen to it with my ear, like all the detail. And I loved it. Now it makes me feel like I want to go outside and listen to everything now. Like, wow. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great. That's awesome.
All right. And our last hand comes from Mary. Give Mary a moment. Tammy was on the list and disappeared, so maybe Tammy.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Mary, we got you.
All right. In the mural with the plastic red buckle, on the left, I guess it's not part of the painting, but you see a very small person.
Yeah.
And it certainly gave me the impression that how the problem of the red bottle has become so large in relation to it has become such a large problem in relation to a human being.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a really interesting observation.
I like that.
Okay, that's all.
Wow, thank you for sharing that,
Thanks.
Mary.
That's
Isn't that
good one.
interesting how like the accidental human that's caught in the photo
Yeah.
impacts the photo of the mural? Like
Yeah.
how interesting is that? And I wonder if people like Jiten, you said you were biking past that area all the time. I wonder if that's a common thing when people pass this mural that they are like, wow, gosh, this problem has gotten so big, right? It's like bigger than the average human. We can't solve it one person can't solve that problem.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the other thing that brings up for me is just that you do actually have to take a moment to look at it to see what's going on. Like you were saying, it's actually easy to miss what the real significance of it is. And so, yeah, I mean, maybe some people feel dwarfed by it. Maybe some people just see like, oh, that's bright and red and blue.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. None of those people were in this space tonight.
No.
Awesome. Well, I'd love to throw some thanks out to folks in terms of who participated in the Crowder. So I know that we had one person that like described every image that we put out. Do we want to say a shout out to that person?
Yeah, that person was Lucy. We heard 3 of her descriptions today, and she also described the other 21 murals that were part of this project and the other 4 that were part of the bonus round. So that was really an incredible amount of work to put into this.
Nice one. Amazing. Thank you, Lucy.
Yeah. Yeah, we got some really great responses from folks. Lots of different, lots of different perspectives, lots of different descriptions. And we're going to put these in a place where they can be accessed so everybody gets their description shared, right? But we're working on updating our website right now so that there's a good home for some of these things. What do you think next for the mural? For the Crowder project? Any thoughts on that?
Are you asking me?
There's always something that's coming up. I know we got some phases we're thinking about. Maybe it's too early to out them.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I know we're thinking about, what other kinds of ways can we present these things, right? Because, I mean, we've done it on Zoom a few times now, but like, is there a way of doing it where it's on a walking tour? Is there a way of doing it where it's a prepackaged video tour or something like that? I mean, we're always brainstorming and exploring new ways to use this stuff.
Adrian, for you, this being the first time, you texted me during the listening part of but why don't you share with folks any impact that this might have left on you, having been your first time experiencing what we do with the Crowder?
Well, it's really neat. So like I'm a super podcast nerd, and I love it when CBC, especially because they have such good presenters. Sometimes, I mean, they're not all great, but sometimes they're amazing. And I love it when they go into art galleries or architectural spaces and they're forced to describe things on radio. And I got that same like tingles in my brain feeling where I was seeing, like I've seen these images so many times because we're constantly making decks and slide decks to pitch for funding all the time. So I'm constantly resizing the image, changing it, making it fit with text, figuring out what the image tells the story I need to tell in terms of what kind of community work. So I kind of can't see them anymore. And what's really interesting is that like this idea of seeing or seeingness, it's in our language, and it's, of course, like it's problematic in many ways in terms of like privileging a certain kind of ways of seeing the world. Like it's really interesting. And this has been a really good meditation for me to reflect on, there we go, another word that is referencing vision. Like, it's incredible to see how our language shapes our knowledge and understanding of the world. And so circling back to sort of I'm so tangential, but circling back to like what I'm really feeling when I'm in this space is I deprivilege my sight while looking, quote unquote, at these murals, and I'm listening to how they look, and listening to how things look is it's a beautiful way to experience murals. And for someone like myself, who is just always seeing them in this typical way, to see it in this other way, to see through hearing and listening, I think it's a brilliant paradigm shift for me, because the more I immerse myself in this work, the more I need to listen, not the less. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
When one starts on a journey, it's very much doing, like doing the thing, making it happen, quote unquote. And then the farther one gets along a journey, the more listening and less doing. And that's a really interesting transition for me right now in my process. And I'm seeing it happen in this space. So I'm really loving it, in that listening as a way of doing, you know. Yeah.
Awesome. We were getting some hearts from Karen, and Karen also has a hand. So Karen's going to be our last hand. It's all you, Karen.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, this was absolutely wonderful. And Adrian, I completely concur with you. Being able to look through a different lens. I'm learning a lot about mindfulness through this pandemic. And that's what comes to mind, is being very mindful in the moment of being, you know, if you do have vision, even partial vision, and being able to listen at the same time. It's just wonderful to be a part of. And also to view things in a different light through someone else's eyes. I just love that. There's things I might have not been able to notice or recognize, but through someone else's eyes, you know, to see something in a different light, which is really wonderful. And Jiten, I love the fact that you are suggesting perhaps maybe doing city tours or putting this online, because I think about how the pandemic brought us all together and how we were able to travel around the world and look at all these different visuals and these different cities around the world. And wouldn't that be a wonderful way of bringing people from different parts of the world to our city? And then also when people come from different countries, like my relatives came over from Denmark for the first time this summer to see Vancouver, to allow them to go specifically looking for these beautiful pieces of art and being able to stand there like the gentleman and being able to see how large this piece of art really is, because it's so much different on a screen versus standing there in person. So I think that's a magnificent idea, and I would love to see that follow through, because I'd be really encouraging my friends and family to come to the city and view it in that manner. So thank you very much again for everybody's participation, and for yet Amy, another wonderful evening. So thank you, everyone.
I'm not taking all the credit. This is a shared team thing. So thank you, Karen. And say, you know, VocalEye before the pandemic had done some walking tours with public art. And so this is constantly on our radar and agenda. So we're always waiting for the right moments and the right partnerships and the right time to unveil all of the cool things that we have. All the pots simmering on the stove in the back, they're all ready to bubble over, right? Because we're all like, oh my God. So just stay tuned. This is where the newsletter and the website and all those things that you all are signed up for, you can get lots of information from those. Awesome. Lindsey, how about for you? Anything impactful before we say an official goodnight to everybody?
Oh gosh, I don't even know where to begin. This has been a really impactful project for me, just as a complete whole. You know, learning about all the different artists of the murals that we've chosen, the stories and concepts behind the murals. And I think maybe the most impactful thing, not only just, you know, providing and helping and being part of the process of making these murals accessible to people who are blind and partially sighted. For me, it's the idea about taking a slower look at something. Something I kind of touched on before is that we're such in a rush, and with social media, we, you know, consume so much imagery and so much nowadays imagery of art, because it's in all of our advertising and it's all around us. But you know, with this project, you know, really sitting down and looking at an image slowly, looking at the details, and, you know, having an entry point and, you know, creating your own story within that is, you know, for me, super impactful. Just because I, you know, at this point in my life, I'm a very busy person. constantly doing this, that, and the other, multitasking, and to really actually sit down and be like, you know what, I'm just going to really look at this and study it for a minute. And what am I getting from this? And there's just so much. So if this is a reminder for, you know, sighted people and non-sighted people to just, you know, slow down a little bit in this crazy busy world, that was really huge for me. And to you know, understand and appreciate art in that way, and to be reminded of that, I think is really huge for me.
Well, maybe, Lindsey, when the time is right, you and I, and maybe Adrian, we can talk about this little idea of creating a blind community mural somehow, somewhere in the ether. We'll do something.
Let's do it.
I know, right? The hamster runs really fast in this small hamster cage in my head.
Yes.
All right. Well, friends, we usually do a prize draw at the end of every event. So this is what we're going to offer this evening. Adrian and the team at the Vancouver Mural Fest have these lovely t-shirts. Adrian, would you like to describe to us what the t-shirts look like?
Absolutely. They are sort of your classic cotton, 100% cotton white t-shirt. They're a crew cut neck, and for people like me, you can just throw them in the wash and not care about them. You don't have to do anything special to take care of them, and they'll be fine, which is always good. And they have our logo is on the front, and it's really big. It takes up the whole front of the shirt, and it's a really simplified block letters. And the reason why is they're just in the black outline on the white shirt, and the idea is you can sort of color the shirt. So the idea is, you know, we're a mural festival, so you could tie-dye the shirt if you like, but also you can color inside of it. You can just wear it as is. You can use it as like a paint smock and maybe get speckles of paint on it as you do creative projects. So it doesn't have much on it, because one of our ideas is like, oh, we'll have a very colorful shirt. It's the Mural Fest after all. But the idea is you can have it as a white shirt with like the cool letters, or you can kind of put your own artwork inside of it and get kind of like mural cred. And people are like, oh, that person, they paint things, they do creative things. There's bits of creativity on their shirt. So that's sort of the idea behind it. No pressure. You don't have to paint it at all. You just wear it. It looks kind of good on its own. That's what it is. Yeah.
Awesome. So here's the offer, friends. We've got 6 of these t-shirts to give away. And when we circulate a follow-up email, there'll be likely a link to my email. If you want one, let us know. We have sizes extra small through extra large available. So let us know. Let us know if you're interested in a t-shirt. Instead of pulling names and giving them away to folks, we're going to let you come to us, just like we do when we offered the cherry blossom tea. If you wanted some to be sent to you, we let you ask for it, and then we sent it out to you. So that's the offer, friends. With that, thank you to the Vancouver Mural Fest. Adrian, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know you have another event this evening to run off to. So I bless and release you, my friend, knowing that this won't be the last time that you join us in this space. I'm pretty sure of it.
I hope not. And I would love to come back anytime. And I just don't want to leave. I'm having so much fun. I don't even care about the other event anymore.
Oh, no, don't say that out loud. This will be on YouTube later. No, we care. We care very much.
I've had such a good time. What a really cool scene. I really appreciate y'all.
Awesome.
Thanks, Adrian.
And again, thank you to Lindsey and Jiten. And with that, friends, we're going to say goodnight to everybody.
Wait, I have one last thing, Amy. I wanted to have a few shout outs too. If there's any describers in the space tonight, thank you so much. And I've got a few shout outs for our social media star describers. Christy Cassie, Jenny, Fritz, my mom, and Graham Cross. If you're in there, in the audience there, thank you so much. And Christine, if you're here as well, thank you for your thoughtful descriptions. Thank you to everyone involved. How many times can I say thank you?
Thank you. Yeah, we're coming up on the screen. Okay, Jiten, I'll give you one final moment if you have any shout outs.
Sure. I'll just say a few names because there's some people who did some descriptions that we weren't able to feature. So Yafeng Yin, Susanna Mars, Cynthia Small, JJ Hunt, Emily Burton, Roxana Kohan, Pamela Ehrman, and Jennifer Beairsto. Normally we'd like to feature at least a little bit of what everybody wrote, but because of the structure of this one, we weren't able to. So we appreciate those descriptions as well.
And those descriptions will not be lost and forgotten. We will be making sure that they're available as our website finds a home for everything. All right, that's the end of this one, friends. And I hope you enjoy your summer. We're back on October the 5th. So keep your eyes and your ears and your fingers and everything on your emails for future updates. Have a lovely summer.
Thank you, Amy.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
VocalEye, vocaleye.ca. Special thanks to our funders, the Canada Council for the Arts, the British Columbia Arts Council, the Province of British Columbia, and the City of Vancouver.